Hi guys, I'm Shmi and welcome to the V12 Vantage. So this is my dad's car, but it's the Christmas holidays, I've been at home for the week, and it seemed appropriate to take the car out for a little drive. The first time I've driven it, actually in quite a while. But I also wanted to sort of turn this into another of my fuel for thought videos. After the last couple, I think you guys are really quite interested in these, and I want to take the topic today of car flipping. What is car flipping? I see it all the time, some of you accusing me of it, and how this whole sort of process works, and then we'll talk a little bit about the sort of multiple supercar collection versus having a hypercar in the garage. But first, we're on some lovely roads in Hertfordshire, just north of London at the moment. I'm going to put the V12 Vantage into sport mode, immediately more throttle response, and thrust away from the 6-litre V12 in this thing. 510 brake horsepower, a beautiful 6-speed manual gearbox, and I think one of the inspirations for the GT8, of course, that we're going to be seeing a lot of in the very, very near future on this channel. But one of the things I love so much about this engine is how much torque it has. Whatever gear you're in, it just gets up and it goes. It's an elegant symphony of sound. It's such a lovely car to be driving. So after doing my previous videos, I've done one in the FF, one in the Focus RS, one in the Mini. I think I'll do the next one in the McLaren, but it seems sort of worthwhile while I was at home for the Christmas period to take the car out. So also please excuse the really low sun if at any point in this video it is desperately annoying. It is obviously just after the shortest day of the year, and there is not a whole lot I can do about it, but I can be grateful that we do at least have sun in the United Kingdom at this time of year, which makes the drive a little bit more interesting than it otherwise would be. So, I mean, this car's an awful lot of fun. Come on, traffic, I want to be able to pull out here. Okay, off we go. Just the grumble you get from the V12 behind you, it's astonishing. Astonishing, no pun intended. So let's talk car flipping. What is car flipping? Well, firstly, car flipping is basically if you buy a car, you take up a limited edition model run slot, or let's say you get an early allocation on a car, and you do that purely for the purposes of selling it to make money. So let's say you were fortunate enough to get a 911R allocation, but before you even driven the thing, you put it up for sale. Maybe it cost you £150,000, 200,000 euros by the time you'd spec'd it up, but you go and sell it for, well, the market value right now is lost as marbles. I think they're asking up to sort of $1 million in the US, but let's say realistically £400,000. So you literally flip the car and make £250,000 profit, but in doing so, what you've effectively done is stop somebody else that wants it from getting that allocation and being able to buy it from you themselves in favour of somebody else who wants to add it to their collection and doesn't mind the cost. So you've blocked out a slot on a limited edition model run, and that's happening at the moment with lots and lots of cars. 911Rs, 991 of them, F12 TDFs, 799 of them. I'm seeing a few GT8s being sold at premiums very, very quickly at the moment. So only the first few cars started delivering a month or two ago, and we've seen 2 for sale. Specification came to 190 to 220,000 pounds, depending how you did it. That sort of region. They're going for sale for strong money. I've seen one advertised for 300,000 that I think went straight away, and one advertised at the moment for 340,000 pounds. But those are cars that are basically being delivered to customers and put straight into a showroom for sale. Now, I don't like that at all, because you've starved somebody else who wanted the opportunity to buy the car from doing so. Historically, this is more well known from, say, Ferrari territory, because new model Ferraris always have insanely long build queues to get your hands on one. When we were talking even F430 days, but let's say 458 Italia, when it came out, if you wanted a 458 Italia, the Coupé, you were literally going to be looking at 2 years to get your hands on one. So naturally, anybody who gets an early slot builds it in a very generic spec: Rosso and Crema, Rosso and Nero, Nero exterior with Nero interior, something really, really generic. And flipper cars are normally in launch specifications or very generic specifications, and put it straight on the market for £20,000, £30,000 over, and because there are lots of people who would like them, inevitably it will go. But what you've done is create that knock-on effect for everybody getting their car slightly later because you wanted to flip it. Now, I get accused of flipping far too regularly, guys. I have never in my life flipped a car. This came up particularly with the 675 LT Coupé, because of course I changed from the Coupé into the Spider. Now, from my perspective, that Coupé did 5,250 miles in 9 months, and anybody who wanted to flip a car would not do anything like that. It's stupid how much you would devalue the car by doing that mileage. Unfortunately, we live in a world where you have to be very sensitive about the miles you do in a car, because the price is dictated by that. Buyers will always take a car with lower miles, especially in the United Kingdom. I think more so perhaps than in other countries, just because we don't have massively long distances to go between places. So I sold the 675 LT Coupé, as you know, to move into the 675 LT Spider. So in no way can that be considered a flip, because I spent it immediately on the direct replacement. Two of the same cars is stupid. The 675 LT Spider being a car I'd quite like to hang on to, and I'll get onto that a little bit more shortly as well. So you get this with all sorts of different cars, and everybody I think accuses me of it because I change cars quite regularly. And the reason I do that partly is because I as a person, and very happy to admit this, I'm very into whatever's new and exciting, the new things. I like what's just come out, new technology, and the excitement that comes around it. And I think you can't really disagree that you guys as viewers of the YouTube channel quite like seeing new models as well. So my aim from my side is definitely not to flip cars, because I will never buy a car and not drive it. Every car I buy will go on a launch tour. I'll throw a whole pile of miles on it straight away. That's why I put paint protection film on them at Topaz. But I want to be growing this collection, but in turn, you know, there are cars that I might not like as much, but equally, I sometimes just need to move a car on to get some cash back in my bank account to pay for whatever's coming next. And that's obviously something that's very, very relevant, because I seem to be placing deposits on new cars rather regularly at the moment, which is a slight addiction I should probably slow down with. But I want to be growing my cars out into a collection that one day maybe I'll be able to put somewhere, you know, living the dream like Jay Leno's garage. If things desperately go in my favour, I would love to do that. Make it a place that can be open for people to come and visit. Obviously, I'm not going to get as far as Jay Leno. His garage is one of the best places in the world. I've never been, but hopefully at some point. But even just having maybe a small venue near London at some point in the future where you guys can come along, we can host some meets, and you can maybe see the cars and see some other cars if there are some people visiting, is a cool place to start my videos. So in the back of my mind is growing out the collection, and basically I'm sort of thinking every 2 cars I buy in, pretty much 1 will go out. And I want these cars obviously to be the exciting special editions, because I'm wanting to create this collection and I want to enjoy driving them, and I have a particular sort of obsession with driving, as you know, you follow me doing an awful lot of it. So things like the GT8, especially with the emotional connection I've now got to that car. I've said it before, but just think about it. I have been there through the entire build process of the GT8. I've taken you along this journey from when we, well, first announced that I had bought it, before it was even, the car was even announced itself actually, I had bought it, to the paint shop. I was in the paint shop when my car was painted. I saw the engine going in at the marriage station. We joined it for final trim. I signed the back of the seat. I signed the chassis on the door sort of plate underneath the carbon plaque side plate that goes on top of it. It's been my car sort of all the way through. It's a complete story. I was there when they were testing it, and then as you've just seen, I went back to join Dr. Andy Palmer, oh, bit slippy, 5 degrees, for the final inspection, for like signing off the car and sticking the wings badge on it, making it an Aston Martin. That car is, to me, it's my car. It's like you couldn't have a more close personal connection to anything that you can go out and drive. Although maybe a kit car if you've built it yourself, but come on. In this category, there are 150 of them. It's a serious collector car. Maybe at some point in the future I'll sell it, but I get a lot of these accusations of you're only buying it to sell it, and I can tell you guys that is not the case. I am not only buying any car ever to sell it. If I buy a car, it's because for some reason that car appeals to me or I want it in my collection. You know, the 675 LT Spider, I had the 12C, the 650S, the LT Coupé and the LT Spider, and between them I've done about 40,000 miles. That is almost the definition of a supercar to me, because it is what I am so familiar with, and that obviously comes from the fact that I loved it so much in the first place to drive. And I've got this sort of attachment that even though there's a new McLaren coming, I want that LT Spider in my garage. I want that car. It's custom paint colour. I made the paint colour. I made the spec. I know the the body options so well, the options on the options list for the P11 platform. I don't know, it's just my car. Now the GT8 has sort of surpassed that, but these two together will sit side by side, the sort of pride of my collection, for as long as I possibly can. I mean, in addition to those, we've also got the AMG GT-R coming, and this is a very relevant car to all these questions coming in about car flipping. So I have a lot of people, and by a lot, I mean I've received 20 or 30 people saying, I've put an order down for an AMG GT-R, is it going to make me money? And some of you guys might be watching this, and the long story short is, if everybody does that, then no, because the market gets flooded with cars for sale, and people who want them don't really get to buy them or have to buy ready-made specs over list price. I personally can't see how a non-limited edition Mercedes can make money anyway, so I think you guys might be living a little bit in dreamland. It's not the SLS Black Series, of which there are only 150 of them. Yes, that's gone up in value hugely, but think of the numbers. The AMG GT-R, there might be 2,000, 3,000, I don't even know, but there are no official numbers. Yes, it's a freaking phenomenal car, and that's why I want it. I had heard rumours of the technology before it came out, and it's a car I want to use for road trips, for adventures, but for track days at the other end. It's got a boot, it's got some luggage space. It's the sort of front-engined, rear-wheel drive brute of a GT. And yes, the FF is that in a little bit, but the FF doesn't have quite the boisterous characteristics, and obviously it's a four-seater. So those two cars sit side by side, and I think that's another thing. My cars in my garage are all, they don't overlap, they're not serving the same purpose. I like to think that I've got, I'm not going to buy a 488 to sit alongside the LT because they do the same thing. I've got the mid-engined, ridiculously powerful carbon-topped hypercar convertible. I've got the GT8, which is the manual sort of fun days, exciting kind of short drives, truly special car. But the AMG GT-R, that will be my sort of daily driver, front-engine GT car. The FF, that is my sort of luxurious, multiple people, nice event kind of car, support car when I'm off with a car that doesn't have much luggage space, and for that purpose it is literally perfect. Obviously the Focus RS has kind of become my daily driver. It's got winter tyres on it, and I'm using it an awful lot. It's done 6,000 miles in 5 months. Just to put that into perspective, that's a lot. In fact, all of my cars just do crazy mileage. Then the Mini's a bit of fun just to have around London. Obviously it's never going to do a lot of miles, but it's very, very easy to park. So my garage and collection is sort of really, I think, quite well thought out, even though you may not realise behind the scenes. But I'm trying to, have everything pieced together so that they're good for driving. And sometimes I end up with cars in different countries or things, so it makes sense to slightly have some crossover. And that's basically why I want lots of supercars in my collection rather than a single hypercar, let's say. And there are loads of these comments still of, why don't you sell everything and buy a P1? Well, I could literally sell my entire fleet of cars and buy maybe one P1 if I finance a little bit on top. But the downside of that, obviously, is I'm too scared to drive the thing, because brakes are 15 grand, a windscreen's 18 grand. If anything happens, it costs a fortune. And let's face it, I do 50,000 miles a year in my cars, and I couldn't do 50,000 miles if I had a single car. Then you've also got taking my friends. I love going on drives with friends, taking out multiple cars, taking them all and just going and having some fun, especially like we did on Fuel Faction. And you can guarantee there's going to be another Fuel Faction coming up very soon. Just quickly while we're here, hill start in a car like this, fly off handbrake, manual handbrake is down this side, so you're doing that with your right hand in a right hand drive car, which is completely backwards. And actually this is the first time I'm going to have done it in a reasonable amount of time, so that's a little bit too much gas. Oh well. Keep us some traffic. Everybody turns to look at this car. Everybody. The Morning Frost white paintwork. It's beautifully clean right now. Such a lovely, lovely machine. There we go. But yes, my reasons for the multiple supercars. One is because I like the collection. Two is I enjoy the experience of working with many different brands, and by buying a number of different cars. I'm sure you've noticed that I've got a McLaren, a Ferrari, had a Porsche, an Aston Martin, a Mercedes, a Ford. There's a reason I'm sort of wanting to experience these different brands, partly so I can talk to you guys about it, but partly because I'm not biased to a single brand. For example, I have no allegiance to McLaren, and as I said in my mini Fuel for Thought, it's not like I've already bought the new P14 720S, the replacement to the 650S, because I want to see what the car's like. I'm not just going to buy it just because. And certainly I'm not working with any of these brands in terms of discounts on cars or anything like that. Just special filming opportunities was what they're able to provide, because you guys enjoy it and I very much enjoy seeing behind the scenes of the cars. The Ford GT is literally years away, so please don't get excited about it yet. I don't expect to see that car inside 2018, 2019 if I'm lucky. Let's just wait and see when it turns up and what the situation is at the time. I'm lucky enough to have been given an allocation would be more accurate, and when the time comes, hopefully I'll be able to film some things with you. The car's going to be built in Canada. We'll have to see, but it's so far away that there's a lot more exciting stuff that's going to be on the horizon before we get to the GT. But yeah, back to the car flipping topic, the flipping topic of this video, and the sort of false accusations, I suppose, that I kind of take quite personally, because yes, I want to buy the special edition cars, but I want to buy them into a collection that I can share the content with to you guys. And obviously everything I can make through my various sort of business type activities and everything connected to Shmee 150, I want to put back into my car collection, into these cars, because it makes more opportunities for things I can fill and enjoy on a personal level, because let's face it, I love the cars, supercars in this world. That's why I got into this in the first place. But also the video content and opportunities I get to film and share. And there's nothing, I suppose, I enjoy more than having this kind of opportunity myself, than letting you guys come along with me for the drive and for the ride and for whatever's going on. Yeah, nice. This car is so good as well. Aston's just, it's the last of the old school manual. And this one, you know what, this is an interesting car. I talked my dad into buying this car. He'd always had M3s. He had an E92 M3 for 7 years before this. And I was like, listen, you lose a lot of money on those kind of cars. Why don't we invest sensibly into something really cool? And this was shortly after his father passed away, my grandfather. And we came up with the idea of V12 Vantage. I mean, he loved the manual setup, he loved the car. In the tunnel. Sorry, I couldn't resist. And this car, we bought it about a year old, not too many miles on it, 1,000 or so. I mean, he's had it now for 3 years, and it's probably worth about the same amount of money that it cost when it was brand new. Just by a clever purchase, clever investment, and getting to enjoy and drive. And you know, I'm looking at it now with 20,051 miles on the clock. So he's not been holding back. Done a good 6,000–7,000 a year with the V12 Vantage. So that's definitely not being flipped. Yeah, so that's really my topic. You know, the cars I'm ordering, I'm not going to buy a car to flip. It'd be nice to not hear any more of it. Obviously that's not going to happen, because YouTube is YouTube and you will all comment whatever you would like to comment. But I want to be able to buy these cars and share everything with you, what they're like, what they're all about. Anyway, I will wrap up for now. I think I have waffled on for far too long in today's Fuel for Thought. Thank you very much for joining me. Hope you've enjoyed the little drive and an interesting discussion about the topic. I had to do it again. Anyway, I'll wrap it up there. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and I will catch up with you soon. Cheers!